Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Chai Tea Tai Chi web show. I'm Dane Dormio. I'm joined by my good buddy Andrew Brown. And today, this evening, this morning, where she is, I believe, uh,
Yeah.
we have a really awesome guest joining us, Marisa Cranfill is the creator of YoQi, which is a fusion of yoga and Qigong, which, as anybody who has watched the show knows, this is stuff that we love and go crazy about. So I actually came across Marissa's work quite some time ago on the internet, on YouTube. I came across YoQi. Actually, a friend of mine had the idea. Wouldn't it be really cool? A friend that I was a student of mine one day said, "Wouldn't it be really cool to create a fusion of yoga and qigong called YoQi?" And I said, "That would be a really cool idea." And I looked it up, and it turned out it already existed. So,
Great minds
so
think alike.
Yeah.
um, and now here we are. Here I am getting to sit down and share this conversation with Marisa Cranfill. So thank you, Marissa, for being here, and thank you for all the great work you're doing in the world.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out and having me here.
So I I want to hear your origin story because I know you've got a really awesome and varied background. Uh, but in terms of how did you get started on this particular path, and how did this thing called YoQi come to exist and flourish?
Well, the short story would be that I went to Thailand when I was a child with my mother. She started a silk factory in Thailand and a silk business. And so as a child, I'd never left the States, so I'd never seen anything besides what we grew up in California, right? And so it was the first time I saw the Buddha. And in Thailand, the Buddhas are quite big. They're huge gold statues and very peaceful with a lot of energy. So as a child seeing this, like, kind of blew my mind. I was like, what is this? Who is this? And all these people praying, and it's so beautiful and peaceful and very different from what you see Jesus on the cross, or going to a cold Christian church. So for me, it was like a wow moment. And when we returned from that trip, my father passed away. I was a child. And so, that left me kind of in this existential crisis of what happens when we die. And I pretty much spent my whole high school years being that kid, that weirdo kid that's like into all the dark stuff and all the weird stuff.
Were you into the goth stuff too?
Yeah, I didn't go full, dressing, but I really went on towards that path. I was more into studying. I really studied this stuff. I had books.
Yeah.
I had
totally relate.
Yeah, so I think we're that group, right? That genre. And I made the intention because my mom had the business that I was going to study in Asia and live in Asia. So I did, and I left the country right after high school. Figured out a way to get there. I went to Japan, India, Israel, and then ended up in China, where I discovered Tai Chi. Well, Tai Chi, everyone knew what Tai Chi was, so I was like, yeah, I'll take a class with my school. I was in a university in Hangzhou. And one day, nobody showed up for class, and it was just me and the master, and he asked if I wanted to do Qigong. And I didn't know what that was. And I said, sure. So he said, all right, let's go to the forest. And he took me out into the forest and put me in Zhanzhuang, standing like a tree with a tree, and told me to breathe with the tree and connect to the tree. And I was like, this is everything I've ever wanted. This is what I've been looking for. And at the meantime, I was studying actually Buddhism. So I wound up, my studies were Buddhist studies, but Qigong actually has a Taoist Qigong and a Buddhist Qigong in China. I wound up in Thailand after that, working, living, and meditating with my master, and I was also training yoga. It's popular, yoga's everywhere. Decided to do the whole yoga thing in Bangkok. There's a lot of great yoga schools access. And so she asked me to start teaching meditation with her and yoga and Qigong on our meditation retreats. And this was special because in Thailand, the Vipassana tradition or Theravada tradition of Buddhism actually doesn't have any Qigong or movement to it. It's very sitting. You sit, you walk, and you stand, and there's not this Chinese style of movement integration. So that she allowed me to do that was very special, and the people responded really well. So every morning I would teach a little yoga, and then followed by Qigong and then meditation. And the formula was working. People were like, we love this. It's helping so much. So that gave me the idea. And my master kind of pushed me in that direction. And really quickly, another monk asked me to start teaching. And I was teaching groups of 50 people in a room, and they were loving it. So I started to make the videos for them when I wasn't in Thailand. That they could continue to play at the Buddhist center on the wall, like a projection of me on the wall. And then I thought, I wanted put some stuff on YouTube. And then I started to film, in the most beautiful places that I could find, and so that you could feel the energy when you're doing the video. And then since then, it's taken off. So.
All right. That's awesome. Great story.
So what do you see as the similarities and the differences in the two traditions? Because I love that you brought up this. There's this distinction between the Taoist tradition and the Buddhist tradition, and the Buddhist tradition has its own Qigong. Some of the oldest known Qigong, the story goes, was brought to China and seated at the Shaolin Temple by Bodhidharma along with Buddhism. And so Buddhism has its own Qigong practices, but the Taoist tradition focuses a lot more on the movement aspects of Qigong. So I'm curious what you see as being the similarities and the differences between the two approaches that you are blending together.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Bodhidharma, because he was from India, or they're not sure. They even think Persia, possibly. It's not so clear. And the whole myth about Bodhidharma, the story, we know he existed, we know he went to China, but we don't know for sure that he brought Qigong or started Qigong at Shaolin. It's not a verified fact, although it's been used.
It's a very old story. Yeah, that's why I refer to it as. So the story is the legend, the mythology around this figure, or whatever. But it's a great story.
It's a great story, and what's interesting about the story is that he was from India. So here we have the Indian yogic tradition mixing with the Chinese tradition, over 1,000 years ago. Already, yoga and Qigong combining together. And, India and China were interchanging ideas. Buddhism came from India to China, mixed with Taoism, and produced Zen. So you've had this intermingling for a long time of traditions. So yoga and Qigong, essentially the similarity is that they're both systems that aim to circulate and refine our life force energy, or create a smooth flow of qi in the body, to create a balanced flow of qi in the body, and to connect us to heaven and earth, and to become a conduit of energy. That's how I understand both traditions, because we have yoga is like hatha. If we're talking about hatha yoga, right, is balancing the sun and the moon, balancing the energy in the body. And Qigong is also becoming skilled at working with our energy through balancing the energy in the body. So that's the main similarity. If we want to talk about what is yoga, that's a whole nother conversation, because there's different kinds of yogas, right? There's jnana yoga, raja yoga, and karma yoga.
It's a very broad umbrella. Just like just like Qigong itself is also a very broad umbrella. So it's an interesting observation I've made that there's always exceptions, and you can say that like Qigong is more like this, but there's some Qigong that is very much like yoga, and you could say like yoga is more like this, but there's some yoga that's already a lot more like Qigong, and then there's the other, in the broader terms, there's even more broader meanings than that. So they're kind of very fluid categories in that sense.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. You can find within them the similar traditions and parts, and then you could find the range of extremes where they're completely different.
Yeah.
So what I do with YoQi is, I think it's really important to know why you're doing what you're doing, and I see a lot of similarity in flow between yoga and Qigong. So I love to bring the flow aspect of Qigong into a yoga practice, and they work together really well. There's styles of Qigong that are really like stretching tendons and then releasing. So that's more like tendon Neigong. And so that works with yoga, I find really well, because when you're in these linear yoga postures that are really stretching the meridians, you can really expand the tendons and then relax the tendons into the posture. So you can mix these principles with postures and with repetitive flow. But when it comes to internal alchemy, like working with your energy body, working with the chakras versus the dantian, I wouldn't mix that. I would not advocate mixing that, because they're like two different recipes, and they're not meant to be fusion. This one, like we're working with energy. Yeah.
I love that you brought this up for because I can imagine this is really is a really big question for people who are wanting to go more deeper with the energetic components of these practices, and what it sounds like you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is on the physical level, it's kind of like almost a convergent evolution phenomena. Like dolphins and sharks have a very similar shape, and they can move through the water, and they're kind of similar in that way. But underneath, it's like it's totally different. And so you're saying, like, in terms of the physical movement and the flow, and opening, conditioning the tendons and that sort of thing, on more of the physical level, they work well together and complement each other well. But in terms of the deeper energetic practices, it's like two completely different sets of blueprints.
Yeah.
That kind of have to be followed. Each has to be understood on its own terms.
Right. And if you mix them, you can go into danger zone. You can have chi deviation or pranic deviation, what they call. There's even within the systems like Kundalini yoga, there's Kundalini sickness, going crazy. And then in Qigong, we have chi deviation. So when you do a practice the wrong way and the chi starts to deviate to go in the back flow of a meridian, or a channel gets blocked, or too much energy goes into an organ and it starts to harm that organ. So working with energy is very, very special. So you don't want to be mixing different things, because that can create further issues, deviations. Yeah.
In a sense, to maybe make a rough analogy, it would be sort of like combining medications. Like you wouldn't want to, like this one thing might be really good for this condition or circumstance, and this other thing might be really good, but it's not good to combine them.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, and some herbs work together and some don't.
Yeah, some are poisoned together. Yeah. So I saw on your Facebook page that when you went to school in China, were you studying Chinese medicine, or were you studying more like just Qigong by itself, or what were you doing over there?
I was studying Chinese language and religion. Yeah, I wrote a thesis on comparative meditation in Buddhist tradition. And I did field work in China. Yeah, I lived in a temple in Putuoshan with the nuns, and I ate with them and chanted and did all the things that they do in the temple and interviewed them a lot. So I was academic at that time, and my advisor, I was like, I want to get a PhD. I want to be a scholar. And she's like, Marissa, that is not for you. Because I was too passionate about the subject, and to be an academic, you really need to detach from the subject material. And yes, so I went back to China to study on my own. So I went to Taiji training camps. I did some Chinese medicine courses in China after that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So one of the things I wanted to ask instantly, I'm glad you already touched on it, was the mix of the yoga and the Qigong, and how they have their own medical like understandings, and how the masters can dish out these different postures and these different patterns depending on what's your ailment. So do you deal with that kind of level of teaching Qigong, or are you just more like, I just like to go general and teach a whole class?
Well, in a way I do. I'm not a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and I'm not a medical Qigong doctor. So I don't have, I don't give out prescriptions, because it's not you're not allowed to. And I wouldn't want to misdiagnose. I always recommend to go see a Chinese doctor and get diagnosed properly. But with my training, I have studied Chinese medicine in China. I've studied a lot of different, just a time. I'm studying for years, and being in Asia and treating myself and with my friends and family. So the system that I developed with YoQi is based on the 6 phases of Qigong flow, which I developed by seeing this huge system of Qigong and trying to figure out, okay, how there has to be something within it, because Chinese medicine is so systematized. It's a beautiful holistic system that's dynamic and changing and morphing, but it's a system. So you have the 5 element phases. And once you understand the 5 elements and the principles of their interaction, the laws of interaction, it's very simple to understand how you can work with your energy, because these 5 elements are within us, all of us, right? So for instance, fire energy, this is expanding. And so there's movements we can do to promote expansion, especially, for instance, push out and open and expand. This is expansive. So if we want to embrace the inner fire and nourish the heart or expand the heart, we do, this. The lungs are contracting. So if we want to contract or nourish and support the lungs, we pull the hands in and draw the qi in. So we're actually like a metaphor, or embodying the actions of qi through the elements. And so that's how I teach. I focus on, okay, what is your goal? What are you trying to do? If you have an illness, say you have, liver qi stagnation, or, so you want to work with your liver. So we do purging exercises. We clear out the negative energies, the emotions, the toxins from the liver. It could be massage, it could be healing sounds. And then we promote tonifying, so boosting the energy in the liver, and then circulating the energy through the body. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So in yoga, the yoga has the pranayama breathing. I imagine you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And in Qigong, we have at least 4 different styles of breathing. So what kind of breathing methods do you introduce your students to right away?
Dantian breathing, so abdominal breathing. First abdominal breathing, then Dantian breathing. Reverse breathing, which you probably do. Reverse breathing is really important. And yoga doesn't, they probably have it in yoga. I haven't come across it, but but they don't focus on it so much as the Taoists do, and the Buddhists in Qigong. So the reverse breathing is when we breathe, we inhale and pull the navel towards the Mingmen, pull the navel towards the spine, and exhale, push the abdomen forward. That's a training technique. And then there's a lot of different breaths in Qigong that I teach. I created a series called Dantian Activation. So there's Dantian Activation 1, 2, and 3. It's building on each other, where we're clearing cold in the Dantian, building the heat, and then building the qi and activating the original qi. So This is one system of breathing. And then, of course, you have breath hold techniques and hyperventilation techniques, and then breath hold techniques. These are also used in training to boost the chi. So yeah, there's one of the similar, most similar breathing techniques between yoga and qigong is actually fire breathing, qi
fire
hua
breathing
in Chinese. Yeah. So the yeah, this one both traditions have and use a lot, which shows how important building that fire in your lower dantian is. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Breathing's important.
I agree. I guess I do it every day.
Yeah.
Something I'd be curious to get your perspective on is what are the ways that yoga and qigong or the Taoist versus Buddhist approach or the Vedantic approach more generally, like this kind of these two approaches, how do you see them complementing one another's weaknesses? And it, just like to give you an example of the sort of thing I mean, like with one of the with a lot of qigong training, there are strengthening and flexibility, range of motion benefits, but not nearly as much as you would get from typical yoga training. And so yoga is a good complement for that in that sense. And at the same time, for people who only do yoga, I've observed this myself, and a friend of mine who's a very high level Tai Chi practitioner told me about this as well, that he knows people who, and also an extreme sports athlete, notice that people who do yoga a lot tend to get injured more when they do more extreme, more like higher contact things, because they get in the habit of extending their joints and not learning how to protect them. And whereas with particularly with Tai Chi and martial Qigong, you learn how to conserve your range of motion and protect the joints, and so that's kind of a mutually complementary dynamic between those approaches. Like that's the sort of thing I'm asking about. Like how have you seen that the sort of complementing of weaknesses?
I agree. That was one of the main reasons why I kept going back to yoga. I loved qigong, was my main choice, but I kept going back to yoga through my trainings because I wanted to get that stretch. And at the same time, it's true. Like yogis tend to overstretch, and this can create a lot of injuries in the long run. Like when you're young, in your 20s, 30s, it's okay. And then you hit 40, 50, and it starts to be like you can't do the same things anymore. You get injured. So what's important, like you said, is strengthening the joints. And I don't really know how to answer your question. Like this is where they really, for me, really do complement each other. But also in my yoga practice, I've found that I'm backing off so much more from extreme stretching, unless it's yin, because this is another crossover. There is styles of qigong and where it's yin yoga, actually, where they just hold a pose for a long time on the floor. Like Polly Zink, for instance. Do you know Polly Zink?
No, I've never heard of that.
He's a martial artist in America. Okay. He's an American martial artist. He actually started what we understand as yin yoga today, that Paul Grilly continued forward. But Paul saw Polly doing yoga postures, but Polly was a martial artist and just holding them like splits and just holding them for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's like, what is that? What is he doing? And with research, he found that like the ancient yogis, if you look, that's also, there were only like a handful of postures that the ancient yogis would just, you know, hold their arm in the sky or put one foot up and just stand there or sit in a posture and just sit there for like all day long. And so when you sit or hold something like that, you need to relax, because if you engage your muscles, you can't hold it. So you need to relax. And this stretches the connective tissues, and it actually promotes the chi flow, and it strengthens the joints. And what's important is also the rebound effect after. So the rest part, because there's doing the exercise, doing the practice, and then there's the nourishing qi, yang qi fa in Chinese, which is the nourishing qi, which is the rest, where that is almost like the meditation, the letting go, where the body rejuvenates itself and the qi flow goes where it needs to go for repair, for healing, and to make you stronger. So there's all these aspects of yin and yang within each practice that need to be understood. And in yoga classes, we have a shavasana at the end, right? The usually 5-minute shavasana at the end after a crazy 90-minute or 1 hour yoga class, which is like quite an imbalance, right? You're doing 60 minutes of just like real serious yang yoga, and then just like 10 minutes of resting. So the yin and yang balance is very important. And that's what martial arts, well, Qigong, Tai Chi brings. Now, for stretching, if you've ever gone to like Tai Chi training camps, well, you trained martial arts, so you know there's always stretches in the beginning and warm-ups. And they're different from yoga, because so like you don't really just hold it. There's a lot of bouncing, but there's a lot of stretch. Like in China, most of the guys were putting their legs over their heads at all the Tai Chi camps that I was at, and I couldn't do that.
Me neither.
It is a highly emphasized in traditional martial arts generally, like Chinese martial arts, and like
it's only modern wushu where you need to do that kind of stuff.
And think about the bones, because there's Paul has also a theory that different cultures have different shaped tendencies for bones. And we sit in chairs, that also affects our structure, but the shape of the bones in China and India, like maybe allowed them back then also to put themselves in different postures, extreme postures that they make it look so easy, but for someone who doesn't have such a privileged bones, and their hip is compressing in the socket, they just can't lift that leg up so far.
That's a great point. Yeah, definitely true. When I went and visited China, they said you have to be able to squat. That's how we use the bathroom here. So I was always practicing my squats, but I look at Chinese guys and they just sit down and squat and hang out for 10, 15 minutes. It's like, I could do that for 10 seconds, maybe 30, really focus hard. But it's their hips are definitely a little more open. Probably it has a lot to do with the like sitting when they're young and how they sit on their knees, or how they and I've heard that in Japan, actually, because of they're still used to sitting on their knees, but people are lazy sometimes. They just don't want to push too much pressure, so they let their knees kind of split open. And then when people grow up and they're in their 20s or something, their hips are like too open and they look very odd, kind of like Jackie Chan, like right around with big open knees.
And in India, they sit on the floor in school. The students, the desks are real low, and they sit cross-legged, like lotus, half lotus, on the floor. That's how they learn. That's how they study. We study in chairs from the time we're in preschool, kindergarten. We're sitting in little mini desks. And in China, they sit in desks in school. I saw it, but they're very used to squatting, out on the streets, like you said. They just play like games, card games, squatting.
While squatting. Waiting for the bus too.
Exactly.
It's the curse of modern Western civilization: loss of the full natural range of motion.
Yeah,
Which,
we lost that
which
natural
is
connection.
which is a it is an interesting example of a cultural difference that that shows up that many Westerners, Americans in particular, just kind of take for granted. But when they uh, it's just like most most Americans can't squat, but then people from the other half of the other hemisphere, it's just a natural ability everybody has.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting illustration of the difference that just habit makes, and because like you're saying, Andrew, and a lot of places in Asia still do have squatting toilets, um, and they're kind of becoming fashionable among certain people. You know,
Yeah, there's an attachment for the throne toilet that lets you sit on it like a
yeah, it's
squat.
like now considered a
It's like,
luxury.
oh, let's just reverse this whole thing.
Because that means that you
You
practice
open your
every day.
colon better. Yeah.
It means that you practice that range of motion every day, and you maintain that movement just by doing it every day, not by some kind of intense stretching regimen or anything, but just by doing it every day, which is one of the I think we actually did a show where we talked about this topic. If you whatever you want to not lose the ability to do, just do it
Yeah.
every day. And
So everybody get a squatty potty.
Everyone should have squat.
yeah, your yoga will improve dramatically. So, something I'm curious about, Marissa, is who is YoQi for? More kind of specifically in the sense that, depending on what you're interested in and what kind of benefits you want. If somebody said I'm looking for these kind of benefits, you'd point them towards the appropriate kind of practice. Maybe Tai Chi would be good for you. Maybe Qigong would be good for you. Maybe yoga would be great for you. Maybe MMA. Who knows? I don't know. But who is YoQi for?
YoQi's for everyone. I always say there's YoQi for everyone because
Oh,
there
but
really is
that's a terrible
this,
marketing strategy.
No, there's mochi for everyone.
and chi is everywhere.
But of course,
so it depends
But
what
we're-
do
yeah.
you want to do with your chi is what I ask. What do you want to do with your chi? Do you want to use it for healing? Do you have something to heal in your body? Or do you want to use it for mental clarity? Do you want to use it to open your heart? Or do you want to for spiritual awakening, for internal alchemy? I mean, there's so many. That's what energy is, infinite. We can use it for anything. So it's really up to you what you want to do, and we can find the practices. So most people come to me for healing. Obviously, people are suffering. There's so much suffering out there, and healing, suffering.
Life is suffering.
Life is suffering. So the physical suffering and the mental suffering, because really in Qigong, one thing that they focus on is the emotions, and learning how to transform our emotions and transform our energy body, which the emotions are connected to. So stress, and anxiety and insomnia, and these are the mental imbalances that plague the world today, with modern, the fast-paced world that we live. So Qigong, using the breath and working with the energy, can help to rebalance, and people feel these effects almost immediately. Like I can give someone will write and I'll give them a few practices to do, and after they do them, they're like, yeah, like I felt better in like one practice. Yeah, because it's energy. So yes, if you have a physical challenge or illness that you are working on, of course, you're already seeing a doctor and you already know what's going on, and you want to use these practices to help heal faster. They're wonderful to do, especially because sometimes if you're on medication, if somebody's on a medication and they can't take certain herbs, So, but using some Qigong or some acupuncture is safe because it won't interfere with whatever medication they're on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really love that how you started your story with how the first time you did qigong was with tree qigong or nature energy exchange. So I started doing that about 2 years ago now. Really enjoy it. It's very powerful to have the energy come out of your head and come back up your feet. Have with the tree. Pine trees, those are the main ones if you want to work on your wood element or your liver.
Nice.
But do they have anything like that in yoga? I've never heard of anything like natural energy exchange with the world. I've only heard it about, doing the stretches and doing your own energy.
For me, I haven't experienced that with yoga tradition. In India, the trees have spirits, and they more like venerate them with offerings,
right.
and yeah, they connect to nature through adoration, through devotion, like veneration, and believe in the spirits. And I think, when you do yoga, all these energy arts that's the core of it, is learning how to connect to heaven and earth and the elements around, and how to balance those elements and to draw the elements in. So I'm sure it's a part of yoga. They don't talk about it so much as like the Chinese tradition, because the yogis were more concerned about getting the hell out of here, right? Like release from this cycle of samsara, from the rebirth. So usually they focus on, going out the crown and getting out. Whereas in the Chinese, they wanted to bring everything back in and be here and connect to the lower dantian and take all this energy and integrate it back into the worldly life. So that's a big difference between the two as well.
Okay. Yeah. So like you said, they have the microcosmic orbit in qigong. Do they have and in yoga they have the chakra circuit? I guess that would be how it's called. But I know you open one gate, then you open the next gate. Based on everything I've learned from yoga, which is not nearly as much as you. So I'm just want to make sure I get that right.
The chakras run along, the Sushumna, the central channel in yoga. And they really are connecting you from your lowest connection to the earth, the root chakra, Muladhara, like your connection to Mother Earth, the Shakti energy, all the way up to your highest heavenly body, which is the crown chakra connection to heaven. So there's your heaven and earth connections with all the chakras. And in Chinese, the orbit's different because this is a different meridian circuit. So the back channel and the front channel. And it's more like one chakra in itself. You could think of it like one big chakra, one big wheel that's spinning, whereas the 7 chakras are like smaller wheels, and each one has its own different resonance. And in Chinese, we have the 3 dantian, which are not chakras. They are elixir fields where qi gathers and is refined and blends. So different energies are drawn into these energy fields and blended and harmonized, which is a bit different from a chakra. They have a different function. So not to mix them up, although they're located in the same location as the chakras, like the head, the heart, and the second chakra. So that gives you a little comparison.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
I want to make sure, Marissa, that people know how to find you and connect with you and learn some of this great stuff you're putting out. You mentioned that you make videos, right? That you have like what are you up to, and what are good ways for people to connect with you?
Lots of ways. We have free YouTube videos. So you just go to YoQi, yoga plus Qigong. You can just Google YoQi and everything usually comes up. So the YoQi YouTube channel.
And also, it would be great if you can put your links in the comments to this video as well.
Okay.
So definitely make a point to do that, and that'll be a nice, easy way for people to find them as well.
Okay, I'll find where to do that.
Yeah.
We can do it
I'll
after.
do that.
We don't have to do it right now.
Okay. And also my website, you can find the video on demand library. So this is a subscription library. It's $15 a month. And what I did there, because the YouTube videos, I just would get an idea, make a video, put it on YouTube. So there's all these different random videos and people are like, what one should I do? So I thought, okay, I need to make a system here and help to guide the people. So I invested in the seasonal series. So we have like winter series, spring series, summer series. We have a series for every season of the year. And within each series is purging video, tonify, circulate, complete routines, meditations, yoga routines, self-massage routines, all kinds of different things that correspond to the season. So what I tell my followers is the subscribers is just work with the seasonal energy and the videos there. You don't need to jump around and do other things unless you have a reason to. But just work within the season, because that's the whole thing, is we want to connect our energy to nature, and then we're supported and we're in harmony and in alignment with what's going on around us. We can be in harmony inside. So that's the library. And when you subscribe to the library, you also get free special audio meditations to support your practices each season, as well as I send out like practice guides on emails to help you, like, okay, this practice does this and this. So that's that. And then we have the mega big online training course, which is to become certified to become an instructor. So
cool.
About over 100 teachers in training right now to teach YoQi. So get ready. They're going to be spreading out around the world. And
that's great. Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I love that. I love that you're putting this out, and I love that these seeds that you've planted and been nourishing and watering these seeds, and they're flourishing, and because this is part of our mission as well. Part of my mission on the planet is to enable and encourage more humans on this planet to establish a personal daily mind-body practice of some kind, a personal daily energetic hygiene practice, and ideally a complete mind-body practice that incorporates breathwork, meditation, and exercise. And so I love that you're doing this. I love that we're on the same team, and I love that you have the seasonal component to it. That's so awesome. We have an online learning community, but so far what we teach is the same all year round. Maybe we could learn a thing or two from her, Andrew. What do you think? But I love that. I love that because that's such a deep part of traditional Chinese medicine, and such a deep part of our connection with nature is that there are seasonal variations, and you shouldn't expect the same thing, the same things from your body at different times of the year, because there's cycles, and I love that you incorporate that knowledge and wisdom and information into your teaching, and make it so readily accessible for whoever. For something you mentioned earlier reminded me of when I was asking about who is this for, and you said it's for everybody. I do get what you're saying. In a sense, it is for everybody, in the sense that the people, what I said just before about a balanced mind-body practice, incorporating body, breath, and mind together. Plenty of people know they need to exercise, or they should, or they want to start exercising. Plenty of people want to start a meditation practice, and they just don't know where to start, or they haven't gotten around to it yet, or whatever. And more and more people are hearing about breath work and wanting to get into that. And they're all wanting the same. It's all for the same reasons of, as you mentioned, rehabilitation, healing and rehabilitation, stress reduction, longevity, energy, focus, emotional state, all these aspects of a good quality of life that are the things that all human beings ultimately want. And this is something that we all need the same way we need not just water and food, but also micronutrients and all the important details. So we all need yes, we all need a mind-body practice involving body, breath, and mind together, including movement, breath work, meditation, and that's I love that. I love that. I love that we're on the same team and that you're doing such great work in the world.
And you're in San Diego now?
Yes, I am.
You are, Andrew. Okay.
Yeah.
That's because that's where I'm from. So I spend a
Well,
lot of time.
you're from a great place.
Yes, it's good.
I know, it was so great. I looked up the YoQi girl, and she's actually from San Diego. It's great.
So,
Well, when you're in town, I would love to have you come to one of my Tai Chi classes and let you take over for about a half hour.
okay. Yeah, definitely. I mean, what kind of Tai Chi do you teach?
Well, the Tai Chi that we teach for free is very fundamental basics like breath work, meditation, and balance walking, and just really paying attention to your balance. That's the most thing that people really care about is like, I still want to lose my balance. I'm 60 and I'm starting to feel like I'm wobbly, and they always come to me like when they need really a lot of help. So that's what I give away for free because that's the thing that they need the most.
Awesome. Yeah, grounding. Very important. Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. I wanted to say one more thing. I don't know how much time we have, but if there was one thing that I would share, I guess, with people,
please
is
do.
that I since I was 17 and I left 18, I was seeking out a master, and I trained with a lot of not only masters. I found shamans. I saw all kinds of crazy stuff. Fire coming out of fingers and projecting, chi from the fingers, and just amazing, superhuman things I experienced. But every master would always tell me the same thing. And because here I am with all my crystals and, and I'm like, look at this crystal. And like, I want to master fire. Please teach me. And they're like, throw away the books, get rid of the crystals, all this external stuff. And you don't even need me. Like they kept saying, be your own master, listen to yourself, tune into yourself. And this is the message that I got continuously, even from the masters, which was very interesting. Because, you have these gurus who are like, I am the guru, you must follow me. You can only get enlightened if you follow me.
Yeah,
but it was the opposite. It's like these masters are saying, I'm the priest, I'm going to channel God for you. But this is like, they're saying you are the master and you need to become your own master. And so this is kind of where I feel we are at right now. I mean, of course, we need guidance. We're not just going to go into the forest and start eating berries and not knowing, there's a reason why there's masters and they've gone through these experiences to help guide us, say those berries are good and those berries are not good. So we use that knowledge, but through the practice, once you start to cultivate your spirit and understand and know who you are, then all the ascended masters and all your past masters and your past lives of being a master come back and start to guide you from your spirit and your intuition.
Yeah.
And this is a very important part of practice because this is what we're all aiming to master, our art, to master what we're training. And that mastery comes from within. And everybody has this ability. Some take longer, some take less, but this is my advice to everyone on the path of all these practices. Yeah,
great advice. Thank you so much. That's a perfect note to end on.
Listen to your intuition, including your intuition about who to train with and who not to train with, and learn as much as you can from as many masters as you can. and maintain your own sovereignty and agency, and realize that that you are the center of your own universe, just like just like every other sentient being is the center of their universe.
Yeah, your parents keep trying to tell you you're not the center of the universe, but they're wrong.
Well, the universe is within all of us. So in the end, we're all the universe, right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
right. That's why.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Marissa, and we will hopefully be talking again sometime.
Would love to, and
Yeah.
to meet you too. All right.
Look forward to having you in San Diego. So thanks very much.
Good night. Sawadee krap.
Sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka.